for live now. So it's actually cold though where you are, Lisa, as opposed to San Diego yesterday was 85 degrees.
And they were wearing UGG boots.
Well, not yet, not
No, but like
yesterday.
when it gets to 70,
But
they're
when it
like,
gets
"Ooh, I
below
better bring out my
70,
UGG boots." Yeah, no.
Southern
Yeah.
Californians will bring out their UGG boots,
No,
and
I've
it's
got my
always
UGG boots
cracks me up.
on. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm here in my UGG boots because I'm freezing my ass off in Ohio. You know, the state where they're going to be descending upon
Mhm.
with their next targeted raids for the Haitians in Ohio.
Do you know exactly where they're considering? I mean, you have to understand that if they say, like, some city in Ohio, it's gonna be, like, the surrounding areas as well, just so
They're
you know.
targeting specifically Springfield, which is where the quote unquote dogs and cats were being eaten, which I'm from Ohio and I'm here to tell you all that is not where dogs and cats were being eaten, just so everybody knows. No dogs and cats were eaten there at all. And it was a total and complete lie. It's all total bullshit. I've been to Springfield before. I was just in Springfield in March talking, and because I have a girlfriend there's actually a private university there called Wittenberg
Mhm.
University. And my girlfriend's son goes there. It's a quiet little quaint town in Ohio. Um, I was there for a couple of days helping him move, and um, super quiet, super chill, very quaint little town. I talked to the businesses there because I was very curious about ICE and also curious about the way that the entire country descended upon them when they were eating the cats and dogs. It was so bad with all the media that rushed there that they had to shut down the university for a week.
Well, this is what's gonna happen in Ohio. Do you happen to have a lot of Haitians in Ohio? Because Francis just reminded us that temporary protected status, also known as TPS, is
That's
ending
why they're
for
going
Haitians
there.
on the 3rd. So this is why they're going there is to target the Haitians.
That's correct.
So
They're
if
targeting
you
the Haitians, and that's exactly what, and those were the people that they were saying were eating cats and dogs, which is completely untrue. Everybody in that area is saying how hard they work. They've really contributed to the economy of the town, and they've done great. I mean, the when you talk to the people there, like I did, okay? They were totally in support of the Haitians, all the business owners that I chatted with, and, because I love to start up, and this was in the spring, because this was after, earlier in the year, they had descended, all the media went there because they wanted to see like zoo animals, the people that they thought were eating cats and dogs, that were not eating cats and dogs. They totally made it up. JD Vance admitted that he made it up.
Mhm.
And then, everyone was like, "Oh, well, sometimes things like that just happen, except for real lives are attached to this." So,
I think they also said that about the Venezuelans in Colorado as well too.
did they?
Yeah, but I also I so Lisa and I recognize that her and I really like talking to each other and we can go for hours and that's maybe not good for some staff. And so we're trying to narrow our focus a little bit and try and do at least a Sunday talk or a once a week kind of talk. Um and she has thoughts in her head about what she would like to talk about. I have thoughts in my head about what I would like to talk about. um, so Lisa, you're my guest. Would you like to go first about what you would like to talk about?
Um, no, you know what? I think I'd like to hear from you first because you have been traveling and have been interacting quite a bit with all that's gone on. And I don't know if I'm allowed to say. Am I allowed to say what you told me about?
No,
Okay, I'm not allowed to say it. But
I
let's
might
just
say it, but no.
let's just say that Jen has been very instrumental in helping identify, pointing out to a lot of people some of the tactics that are being used and some of the things that are happening um, with some of the various attacks on people from ICE because she is very familiar with their tactics and was in prior law enforcement. So she has been very helpful to pointing out some obvious things after they were accusing people of things, American citizens of things.
I was behind the I will say this, I was helping some media understand what actually happened in the Preddy case. Let's put it that way, and how to talk about it. So,
Which is hugely important. So I want to
yeah,
hear.
yeah, and we don't
So
always need
important.
to hear from me. You know, I don't want to be the single voice in this. I encourage people to take my work and put their own spin on it. We need lots of people saying this. It can't only just come from me. We need other people to talk about it and either agree or disagree or don't mention my work. I don't care.
Right.
Um, I see people on there's new people on Blue Sky starting to show, you know, how to do the little cards of the Border Patrol agents who've been
Yeah.
convicted of crimes or arrested. And I'm starting to see other people do that. They're mixing it up with ICE and CBP, which is fine because they're all doing the same thing. They're all basically La Migra. They're all ICE, so it doesn't matter anymore. And somebody had pointed this out to me and said, "Oh my God, they're doing your work." And I'm like, you know what? No, just do it. Do it in your own way. Talk about
Mhm.
it in your own way. What is important to you? Be inspired by anything I may have done. I don't care. It just, we all have to come out about this and talk about this. Um, I think one of the things of last week that really stuck with me was Greg Bovino, Chief Bovino, former Commander at Large Bovino, which is not an actual rank in the Border Patrol. It's just a made up rank. He had stated that over the concern about Liam, I think is the young boy's name, the 5-year-old
Mhm.
boy, that we know how to take care of kids. We're
Oh,
experts at
shit.
taking care of kids.
Mhm.
I could
Mhm.
put up tons and tons of profiles of Border Patrol agents who've been arrested and convicted of pedophilia, but I won't. So I will address this from the standpoint of, and this is kind of sad because I actually put out feelers on Substack. I'm like, does anybody remember how many children died during the first Trump administration in immigration custody? And most people commented that they did not remember. And it's
I
because
don't remember, Jen.
we're all so overwhelmed by all this, right? So, at a minimum, 6 children died in the first Trump administration in CBP, Border Patrol, and ICE custody.
And I just saw on Jim Acosta this like a few days back. They had the reporter on that was I'm remiss in not remembering his name, but he was allowed in to see Liam Ramos and his father and
Mhm,
reported that he is not doing well. I mean, they're
mhm.
showing video of Liam, which that is highly unusual. Like anybody that knows anything about kids with a 5-year-old, you know, he's it's the middle of the day, he's sitting there with a reporter present and he's just conked out, like just out cold. That's
'Cause he's
skunk.
stressed. He's stressed.
Exactly. His dad said
Mhm,
did you see this? His father said that he was sleeping all the time. They took
mhm.
away his hat and his backpack and
And that
he
matters if you don't speak Spanish. His last name is Cornejo, which is Spanish for bunny rabbit, rabbit, and so that's why the hat is significant to that child. So, yeah,
Mhm. And they
yeah.
took away his hat and his backpack, and he's reported that he just was very upset and, he's not doing well. He said he doesn't look well and, he wants to go to school. He's worried about his mom. So, this is
Yeah.
how they're taking care of children.
So let's talk about how they took care of children in the first Trump administration. I wanna talk about these 6 deaths just real, in general, but just to remind everybody, and you can go look this up as well, though this information is starting to disappear from the internet as we're speaking, just so you know. It took me a little bit to find this. A lot
Yeah.
of the articles about them have disappeared. So this wasn't even during the 4 years of the first Trump administration. This was during only 8 months that these deaths occurred.
Mm.
So not even a full year, from December 2018 to July 2019. Number 1, Jacqueline Kayal McKean. She was 7 years old. She died of dehydration in Border Patrol custody, meaning they were not giving her enough water. Felipe Gomez Alonso, 8 years old. He died of the flu. Juan de Leon Gutierrez, he was 16 years old. He he died of, quote, an infection. That's all they gave us in that one. Wilmer Hos, I want to say Hosier? Joshua, basically, is what it is. I apologize for my pronunciation.
Hosea.
Wilmer Hosea
Hosea.
Ramirez Vasquez, 2 years old.
Mm.
2 years old, died in custody of, quote, an illness. That is all we got from that. That's the investigation you get from these agencies. So people who think that Donald Trump made these agencies like this, they've always been like this, but certainly during the first Trump administration, we see the death of these children. Then there's Carlos Hernandez Vasquez. He was a 16-year-old in Texas who died of the flu and laid on the concrete cell floor for over 4 hours dead before anybody decided to check on him. And the Border Patrol critical incident teams came in and they are seen on video in there with that child. The illegal teams are seen in there with that child. And then they erased 4 hours of the video before they gave it over to
Oh my
investigators.
God.
Darlene Cristabel Cordova Valle, 10 years old, died of a pre-existing condition. So when you sit there and say, Mr. Bovino, that you all know how to treat children, this is how you know how to treat children. You let them die in your custody of things like flu and dehydration or quote unquote illnesses. So prior to these 6 deaths, the last time a child died in CBP Border Patrol custody was 2010. This was a wake-up call for us.
Mhm.
And yet, the only thing that got us into the streets to stop these children from being held by these monsters, as you say, Laura, and you are correct in that, is that people took to the streets to demand that they stop child separation, which was a policy that Trump initiated with Jeff Sessions as Attorney General and Secretary Nielsen. And essentially, what you need to know is that crossing the border in between the ports without inspection, if you're seeking asylum and hunting down to seek an immigration officer to process you, is not illegal. It's not illegal. But what they decided to do was make it illegal and take their children. And at best, if it's their first time crossing, it may be a misdemeanor, a civil misdemeanor. And so they were saying, well, if I got a DUI and I had my kid in the car, you would take my kid. And it's like, no, this is more like if you cross the street, not at a cross intersection where it's legal with the light saying, okay, go ahead and walk across, and a cop stops you for jaywalking. Is he going to take your child? Hell no. So it's the same kind
He's
of
not
thing.
taking my child.
No, they're comparing two different types of crimes. And so that's what people took to the streets in the first Trump administration and actually ended. So I've been saying for a while, I wouldn't be surprised if there's already child deaths and they haven't said anything about it.
My
But
God.
my understanding is I'm hearing small little rumors that they're going to begin child separation again, is what they're going to start doing.
Ugh.
And I think this is why we're starting to see them target the schools and target the children. So I would say to those of you in Springfield, make sure you surround your schools when they're letting out of school and when they're going to school. Make sure those of you who are teachers have plans. You need citizens on the outside, not just to make sure the kids are safe getting across the street as they leave school or getting into the cars. You need to make sure that you have people blocks away and hospitals too. You're right. I think that was Francis that said that. Um, um, and you need to be a couple of blocks away so that you can then text the teachers on a joint joint chat line and say they're 2 blocks away so that they can get the kids inside as fast as possible.
Jen,
So
can I ask you a question about child
sure,
separation? I
sure.
was under the impression that they were already conducting I thought they were already doing that. I thought I saw pictures that that was already happening, but I must be wrong. So you're saying right now I mean, Liam was with his dad in the interview or when the reporter was there.
Hmm.
So you're saying they're not separating children. That makes me at least moderately feel a tiny bit
It's
better.
it. Yeah, it's no, it's so it's complicated. What they're doing is they're giving the adult who is considered to be the undocumented or quote illegal alien.
Yeah,
They're giving them the option. So the children, like Liam, are United States citizens typically because they're born here. I think
right.
Liam is a United States citizen. Don't hold me to that.
I read that they are here legally. They're legal. They applied. I guess there was an app that the government created under Biden where they could apply for asylum,
Yeah,
and
CBP
they
went out.
yes, yes, that app. That's the app that they used, and that the family did it the right way, right? They went on the app, they and they, came here
Yeah,
legally via the app. That's how they're here.
yeah. But now the Trump administration has deemed anybody who entered during that administration to be illegal. So they're just making people criminals every day. I mean, and it's what they're doing to us as well. You and I, by sitting here talking about this, are now domestic terrorists.
Right. Yep.
So I mean, it's what they have done, and they've been doing this to immigrants for as long as I can remember. Clinton was doing it.
Mm,
And that's how we started down this road of making people who have lived their lives here for 20, 30 years suddenly becoming illegal because they had a minor traffic offense, like 20 years ago. I
and
mean,
folks, that's really happening. I mean, like,
yeah.
for those people that don't might not know that, I actually know yeah, it's happening. It's happening. People that have been
Mhm.
here I mean, I think most people maybe that are watching us might know, but maybe they don't. I have no idea that they know that that's actually happening. People have been here 15 years, 20 years, and remember when they told everybody, "Don't worry, we're just getting the worst of the worst. We're coming here for the rapists and the murderers," because Laken Riley, which by the way, that is tragic that Laken Riley was murdered. No one, I mean, indeed tragic. However, the individuals who were responsible for her death did. They were held accountable for that crime. Now, under the name of Laken Riley, who was studying to be a nurse, a healer, uh, look how many other people have been impacted because now they're plucking poor families like Liam's family who came here under the guise of the right way applying for asylum and people that have been here for 20 years because here's the thing, the right way, there's no clear path to citizenship. They have not created a clear path to allow anyone to be able to become a citizen. Otherwise, don't you think somebody that's been here for 20 years would have just become a citizen? They're working here. They're paying taxes here. They're starting businesses here. They're doing all of these things. They're becoming members of our communities. Do you really think they would not have just become a citizen? They absolutely would have become a citizen. It's not like they were trying to get one over on the rest of us here, right?
Right. It's too expensive. It takes many years. There are people in India who have had applications to enter the United States, and they are on a waiting list that they have to wait like a lifetime. They'll be dead by
Yes.
the time they call their name. So, yeah, it's interesting this morning. So I set alerts on my phone for Border Patrol and I think CBP as well, so I could see what's going on in the morning. And I saw CBS News, see bullshit news, put out that the ICE agents, which were Border Patrol agents, who shot and killed Alex Preddy, United States citizen, who was legally armed, legally allowed to carry. He had a permit and everything, and did not attack these agents. They're now saying, I want to say the title was something like ICE agents who killed Preddy were in pursuit of an immigrant, and now Preddy's death story is all tied up in this. And it's like, what? First of all, why? Yeah, I know that the title says an immigrant. Well, it's not illegal to be an immigrant. They're very specific about what words they use, and they specifically chose not to use criminal immigrant in the title. But when you read it, it says DHS says he was a violent criminal, and when you look at it, there's no record of him having any violent crimes. He had one domestic call, which ended up being thrown out and expunged. And then he had some traffic violations. He was not a violent criminal. And if they were in pursuit of a violent criminal alien on that day, don't you think they would have said it on that fucking day? Not, I don't know, 5 days later, a week
Of course.
later. Now all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, we were in hot pursuit of an immigrant when Alex Preddy got in the way," and that's not what happened. We could
They don't
see with
even
our
call
own
them
eyes
immigrants. They don't
that
even
they
I mean, they
didn't
don't
call
even they're
them
not even
immigrants.
kind enough to say
They
that.
call them illegals or tonks. I mean,
Illegal.
come on.
No, no, I mean, pay attention to that's the other thing I would just like to uplift to people is the language all being used is not neutral. It has never been neutral. They are trying to desensitize and dehumanize people with everything that comes out of their mouth. They don't even
Yeah.
use the word immigrant. They don't use the word migrant. Notice what they always refer to them as an illegal alien. I
Mhm.
mean, my God, the way they speak about them, because they want us to believe they're not even human. They want us to they want to desensitize the American citizens across our country to think of them as less than human beings.
Well, I mean, if we label people illegal, then they have absolutely no rights, and that's just not. And people ask me all the time, "You used to be a border patrol agent. How come you can't say the word illegal?" I can say the word illegal, but I think it's incorrect. You may sit there and say, "Well, it's written in law documents and this and that." Well, it may be written in law documents, but it's an incorrect term for today, for where we are today. You cannot label people, human beings, as being illegal, because if they are, then you can do anything you want to them, is what we're seeing. So we're just not going to go down that road. Um, I want to point out that where are we at right now as far as ICE killing people on the streets? We're looking at Keith Porter Jr.,
Yes.
Renee Good, and
Mhm.
Alex Preddy.
Correct.
Um,
But my understanding is there have been I saw 9 no, I saw 13 people have been shot?
mhm. Francis says 10 people. I think, Francis, you're talking also about people in custody. And not that that is another subject, but yeah, that we're including those people too as well. And maybe next week we'll go and talk about that. Um, so I see that the Democrats, the main thing I wanted to talk about today, other than reminding you that 6 children were needlessly killed in CBP and Border Patrol ICE custody under the first Trump administration. That's how they treat children in their custody. Um, is I also want to talk about that the Democrats are not going to save us. And we talk about this, I think, in some way every time we talk, Lisa, that I want to list the names of the Democrats in the House who have voted for giving ICE more funding in this bill. I think it's important to understand that ICE has, I want to say, around $75 billion, which
Yeah.
is 7 times over what their normal
Yes.
budget is, which means that they can operate without any funding for 7 years. So the idea that they needed this funding is a lie and bullshit. But the Democrats were Tom Suozzi, Suozzi, out of New York.
Yep. 3 of
two
them
tech,
were Latinos, I would also
yeah,
like to say.
two Texas senators, Henry Cuellar, who was up on corruption charges for taking bribes, but Donald Trump pardoned him. He's a big border hawk. He likes to pretend he's a Democrat, but he's not. He's actually a secret Republican. Please vote him out. The same can be same for Vicente Gonzalez out of Texas. He is a Republican. Those two men are the type of people who believe in coming here with their families and then pulling the ladder up behind them. Then there's Laura Gillen of New York, Marie Gluesenkamp
Yep.
Perez. I don't
Yes.
know if is she actually she's out of Washington. Is she Latina or is she married Latina?
Well, according to there's a Latino, I can't remember the name of it. There's a Latino, she's supposed to be, she's listed. There's a Latino group that keeps track and she's listed among them.
Okay, probably the Hispanic caucus. So, um, and then there's Jared Golden out of Maine.
Hmm.
And Don Davis, Don Davis, out of North Carolina. So those are your Democrats that need to be gone and start running as Republicans and stop kidding the rest of us.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's in the House.
so the reason why they said that they voted for this is because of national security. I want to tell you right now, I just drove from San Diego to Tucson sector and back, and your border's wide open. Just nobody's down here filming it and cares about it. Um, and you could see that that was part of the whole Trump invasion narrative, where they had right wingers down here creating content saying the border was open, the border was open. I could go down there right now and create the same content. The only difference is it actually is open. There are people crossing in the most desolate areas. I went out, filled up my water barrel. I think I put out a video and showed you all and did all that out in the Sonoran Desert. They're still crossing. They're just lying to you. Um, they're all in your cities playing like they're, cops and robbers and real cops. But then some of these Democrats, or I should say Republicans in Democratic clothing, they said they voted to continue disaster response. So FEMA is now somehow tied to ICE funding and this and that. So it makes it hard for, I guess, Democrats to say no to this funding. Um, but let
But
me
they
point
did.
out that FEMA doesn't respond to shit anymore. So what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, they did. I would like to say, I don't know if you saw that the Tom Swazi, I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly, but I believe that it was him who, after Alex Preddy's murder execution, he was like, "Well, that was a mistake."
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
Swazi.
Listen,
Swazi the Nazi. What?
yeah, yeah. I'm
Come
just
on.
saying. I'm just saying, but I mean, it's a good sign for us that he was at least one of them was willing to.
Yeah.
But the other thing I would like to just kind of dovetail into what you're saying
Mm.
is so now that went to the Senate and then they pulled it out, right? And then they gave them 2 weeks, right? They pulled out that funding, which stands to give over $10 billion, $10 billion more over the 75 billion that they were already granted, is my understanding. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding. Yeah.
Okay, so and then they gave them 2 weeks more of funding. So to me, after two American citizens, three American citizens have been killed, right? Countless others have died in custody. We have children that, we know what's going on here. So they're giving them 2 weeks. And a lot of shit can happen in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
A
A
lot of
lot
shit.
more
So
people could die in
a lot of people can die. As a matter of fact, isn't it convenient for them to give them 2 weeks knowing, and I'm so pissed about this being an Ohioan, knowing full well, you guys, that that the Haitian status is being pulled back. So we're in all of the communities across the country where Haitians are they're revoking their protected status, and now they're going to descend upon another tiny little community in Ohio called Springfield, where they were never eating cats and dogs. Um, so a lot of shit can happen in 2 weeks, right? because
Yeah,
their status gets pulled, I believe, on February 3rd. And so just to put it in perspective, guys, I keep a timeline. I call it a timeline. It's like my husband calls it the timeline of terror, which it's pretty accurate, I think. Um, so I called it a memory register because when these kinds of things happen, the accumulation of the harm, it's hard to process because our brains can't hold it all, right? So
right.
just to put it in perspective for you all, now these are actions, all the different things that have happened that create harm in our country in 2 weeks. I have 250 items listed in my spreadsheet. And I just so you all know, I'm looking at it right now. So this spreadsheet that I have 9 categories of harm that are identified. And I color code them so I can sort according to the category of harm. I have media suppression, okay, and propaganda. I have authoritarianism, okay, authoritarianism and rule of law, economic instability, technology and surveillance, global destabilization, public health, attacks on democracy, and human rights and immigrant oppression. I think
So
that's
you
all
need
of
to
them.
write a book after this.
I don't know. I'm just telling you guys
That's what it
right
sounds like.
I'm just telling you guys right now, 250 things in 2 weeks. In last week alone, and I tried to uplift this to people. So in the month of January, you guys, over 500 items that I have listed. Over 500. This does not bring me joy to document these things, but I just want to put it in perspective because 2 weeks doesn't sound like anything.
But I think what you're doing, it also makes me think of like when people say, "Well, what can Democrats do?" They're
They could
not in
claw back
power.
funding.
They can claw back funding.
They could claw
They
back
could
some of that
hold
$75 million because if they said that they are going to, oh, we're going to kind of cut back, didn't if you're cutting back, what the hell do you need $75 million for?
yeah. And then they also like a really good follow that I like is, The Bitchuation Room with Francesca Fiorentini. I learn a lot from her about Gaza and other things that are going on that relate to immigration, and then she knows a lot about Central and South America that I didn't know about, and she was saying that she kind of feels like to impeach these officials, like some people are calling for Kristi Noem's impeachment. I've been calling for Rodney Scott's impeachment, who's the
Yes,
commissioner of CBP and this and that. And she had made a point, well, they're just going to replace him with somebody. And while that's true, and I understand where she's coming back, and I've actually given this a couple of weeks since I first heard her talk about that. Is the That's true. They will just replace her with somebody else. But what it does is it forces the administration and forces them to then have to deal with these things and think with these things, which interrupts their ability to go out
that's
and
what it's
create
about.
more harm.
Yes, that's
So
exactly what it's about is interruption.
you're trying to interrupt them, you're trying to put roadblocks up, you're trying to make them waste their time and their money on every little
Yep.
other thing. So you need to, Democrats, if you're serious about this, you need to really be fighting. And the thing is I don't think most Democrats are really serious about this. We talk about the movie that is out right now. I just want you to know I don't make any money off of this. I am mentioning this because everything that you are seeing happened to Alex Preddy, Renee Good, and Keith Porter Jr. is exactly what we're talking about that happened in 2010 in that movie. And these
Mhm.
teams still exist. They exist under CBP's current management, Rodney Scott, who's in the film using the teams illegally to cover up murders. It's the same thing you see here, where they control the narrative, where they refuse to cooperate, where they fuck with the evidence, where they disappear witnesses and get rid of people. It is the same freaking thing.
Yep,
And yet, even though my senator, Alex Padilla of California, is in the video, not a single Democrat has come out and talked about this movie at all, even though it shows you exactly who the Border Patrol and ICE is and everything about it. So my question is why aren't you guys talking about it? And it's because they're afraid to fight, and they've been complicit in creating this system. And yeah, I saw
absolutely.
somebody asked, did this start with Clinton? Well, I mean, we could go back 101 years in 1924. We can even go further back. But let's just, for our modern history, for what we're doing right now, the system that we see in immigration right now, I put it at it was a deal between Republicans did amnesty through Reagan with the agreement that Bill Clinton would then take the Heritage Foundation's policies and start the system we're on of deterrence policies and militarization of the border that firmly lies with Democrats. I hate to tell you that, but that is the truth. They
Yep,
have not come back. When you look at Biden, yes, he opened up the asylum system, but he also kept the asylum system closed for 3 years of his administration. He did not create all the legal pathways. He did not protect anybody. And then when we get to this thing, I want to address really quick because I don't want to leave this out. The fact that Bovino is out and Homan is in, at least in Minneapolis. You need to understand that Tom Homan was an ICE director under the Obama administration, and under Obama, he designed child separation that was then used in the Trump administration, which killed 6 children. Tom Homan's policies kill children.
yep.
That's what happens. They kill adults all the time, but they kill children. Tom Homan's policies killed these children, okay? So if Tom Homan's being put in to replace Bovino, then you're just going to end up with more dead children. And I would say to those of you in Minneapolis and perhaps Springfield, if he's going to come there, lock up your kids. Lock up your kids because they will come and take your children, and your children will die in custody, and you will not have any kind of restitution. You will have no justice whatsoever. Tom Homan is a terrible, horrible, horribly violent man. He makes Bovino look like, a saltine cracker, quite frankly. He
The
is a
other
horrible, horrible man.
So the thing is, um, w I just can't what bothers me is when people try to, "Well, there's nothing we can do about it," right? Like, yes, there is. Yes,
There's a lot we
there
can do
is.
about
There's a
it.
lot that we can do, and I'm talking about peacefully. I'm not talking about going and, hurting anyone. We have to remain peaceful first and foremost. Absolutely, that is the only thing that we can do is remain peaceful. That's A. But B, um, if, people I've heard, "What can we do? What can we do? What can we do?" Think about the, government, and, like, let's go over that for a minute right now because you can call your governor. You can call your AG, okay? You can call the governor. I mean, I've been on the horn all week with people. Call your governor and demand, what are you going to be doing to keep after what happened with Alex Preddy, what are you gonna do to keep us safe? How
They're
can
not
you
gonna do anything. They're not gonna do
Well,
anything,
you can
Lisa,
try to
and this and
press.
the you can try and press, and I recommend you do, but you definitely need to tell them to quit taking money from these
Absolutely,
groups.
that which is what I did, and for example, Spanberger in Virginia said that they can't, that they will not assist, that they cannot come there. So those are the things that now, mind you, I am a surrounded in a sea of red. So everybody that is my representatives, do we think they care about me? They do not. They don't care about me, and I don't care. I actually knew Bernie Moreno personally because at one point his friends were, or youngest son was friends with my son. His youngest son was over at my house all the time growing up as kids. And now I don't even recognize these people. And by the way, PS, what I know and what I remember about them is they hated Trump back in the day. So right now, let me just say it's sickening to watch the bootlicking sycophants and the way people are just genuflecting to this administration for power and greed. The man already had like a yacht and anything that he could ever possibly want in his entire life. But clearly that wasn't enough. He had to become a senator and, kiss the ring. And now, is literally being so incredibly complicit and just blindly supporting this ridiculous administration. That being said, though, you can still push governors, even if, call your AG and say, how are you going to be, what are you going to be doing to make sure that you're holding any of these ICE or CBP people that are coming to our community? How are you going to hold them responsible legally? Right?
Mm,
Because you could
mhm.
still send a message to the state or to the feds that if they're going to come here and unlawfully start, you know, breaking into people's houses with warrantless entries and smashing people's windows and dragging American citizens away, that they're going to be held accountable for it. I mean, we have to push back. Whether or not people are going to listen, that
No,
I
you
think
have to. You have to until they do listen. And
exactly.
do you know that guy Aaron? I think his last name is Rupar,
Yeah,
Rupar. Yeah, I
I don't
like him
know him.
because
I know who you're
well,
speaking of.
yeah, we know who he is. I don't know him, but yeah, he watches all the horrendous videos from C-SPAN and all that, and then clips the important parts and tells us what's important. And I appreciate that a lot because I don't have the time to watch all that stuff. Um, he had put out a post, I want to say it was yesterday, and he said, I think he was saying 2 or 3 American citizens have been killed by Border Patrol and ICE, and there's not been, and we don't know, he was talking about Preddy, and he said Preddy, and we don't know the name of this. We don't know the name of those 2 officers that killed Mr. Preddy.
No, we
And
still don't know.
he said, is there any precedent for this of having happened in the past? And I'm like, yes, yes. I said there are thousands of people down here who have been killed by Border Patrol, and they will not tell us the agents' names. They won't tell us the agents' names at all. And so, this is the gap that I'm seeing is so many people believe this is happening just because of Trump. I have so many people coming up and telling me, Jen, don't you think there are some good agents that don't agree with this? Yeah, I do, because I was one of those agents that would not hopefully have agreed with this. But you also have the responsibility to stand up and say something. And what scares me the most out of all this is that I have yet to see, during Biden's administration, you saw these ex Border Patrol chiefs coming out going, well, this is wrong and what's going on. They were all ready to talk about this. And now that they're killing U.S. citizens on American streets because they're holding a camera. No chief. I have not seen any Border Patrol agent, ex-Border Patrol agent. I've seen a few ICE management come out and say this is not right, but I have not seen any Border Patrol. And so when you tell me, Jen, come on, they all can't be bad, it's like, you got to understand that that's an excuse that they use for you all to feel sorry for the agents and stuff like that. You don't need to feel sorry for these agents. This is a voluntary operation. The people volunteering to go into your cities and do this, they're volunteering because they like this brutality, because they want to be a part of it. And I'm sorry, but those of you in that green uniform, or if you're in ICE, or if you're in the blue uniform of CBP and you don't agree with this, you need to stand up and say something. Even if you're retired, you need to say something.
We all
Because
need to say
otherwise,
something.
we're just going to consider you to be the same as they are.
We all
You
need to
were
say something,
part of this
always.
agency. You swore an oath to the United States Constitution, which they are directly violating in this moment. These are the systems. And so when you see Democrats not being able to come out and say abolish ICE and abolish Border Patrol And that doesn't mean I'm for no law enforcement on the border.
Right.
That means these agencies have violated their oaths to the Constitution. They are taking up weapons and arms against United States citizens for
Correct.
exercising their constitutional rights. That's it. Nothing more. That is it. Every
They have
single
to be
one of these
taken down to the
agents,
studs. It has to be
they
taken
have
down
to
to
be
the
taken down
studs
to the studs.
and
Yes.
start over. It's I mean, it is irreparable.
Yeah.
No one is saying that we're not going, "Oh, just leave the borders open and let anybody come in." That is not what this conversation is about. Abolish ICE means they have done irreparable harm, and it cannot be fixed. The existing agencies, Jen would tell you, based on all of the experience that she has, cannot be repaired. It needs to be completely taken down to nothing
Mhm.
and started over.
And people need to be held accountable. They need to open up the equal employment opportunity files where female agents have come forward to file that they've been raped as part of their employment in these agencies, like I was. They need to open up the union files where people have come and complained about this. There have been reports from Project on Government Oversight, POGO, POGO. You can look up DHS and protecting the predators, and you will see that they have been protecting agents within DHS from domestic violence charges, from raping their own fellow employees, from raping their fellow employees' children, and all
Yep.
this other stuff. These agencies, the entire of DHS was created by some good people, but a lot of corrupt people who have taken it down this road. And we need to DHS is right now, and these agencies, they meet the definition that they give themselves for what a domestic terrorist is.
Absolutely, they
They
do.
are the ones who are domestic terrorists, and they are the ones that need to be held accountable and brought before a court of law and judged by a jury of their peers. If we get out of this and you all say, good, we're finally back to the Biden Democrats policy on immigration, we have failed.
No,
If we get out of this and you say, okay, good, we're back to the Obama years, then we
no.
have failed. We have got to redevelop and reimagine this immigration system that is not punitive, that doesn't make people rich off of detaining bodies and killing bodies. This is not the only way to handle an immigration system and have national security at the same time. They're lying to you. There are
Two
more
things I wanna
healthier and productive ways to do it than what we're doing.
100%. And two things I would like to dovetail onto what you said, Jen, is that, and I wrote about this in a piece this week about Ohio Immigration Alliance has a spreadsheet that they started of CBP and ICE agents who were, and there were 30 on this spreadsheet of who have been convicted. They're actually convicted of crimes and they
Yeah.
list their names and the dates. And some of them, they are existing and former employees. Some of them are existing, okay, employees. And 29 they all included sex crimes.
Yep.
29 of the 30 were against children.
Mhm.
Okay, so process that, guys. That's the one thing I would like to make sure that everybody knows about. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is that Steve Schmidt um, from the Warning wrote an article that I read this morning, and he is on point. He is not being hyperbolic um, in this in his piece, and he identifies that they are planning 23 of these mass incarceration um, sites across the country so that they can
Concentration
house.
camps.
Thank you. Yeah, what am I saying? Let's call them what the fuck they are. Concentration camps. Sorry. Yeah. Let's call them what I'm the one that keeps saying, let's call things where they are. I can't even believe I said that.
It's
Uh
okay.
I'm pissed at myself. like, I can't, like, it's even working on me. That's what makes me angry, right?
Yeah,
Ah,
I mean, I'm whiter than white, so sometimes I'm like, "Okay, that's a lesson I haven't learned yet," but,
so
that was
20, no,
unusual for you, maybe it's too early or
I
something.
know it's
Time
not.
to be
I don't know. Anyway, so 23 concentration camps to warehouse human beings across the country because they say that in order to meet their goals of deporting 1 million people a year, that they need another hundred, they need these, I don't know, 23 more concentration camps that will warehouse an additional 100,000 people. And currently, they're already warehousing 73,000 people, I believe, in
I
concentration camps right now.
I think so, and you need to people need to understand they're probably thinking to themselves, "Well, that's because the courts are overwhelmed and they can't get them in there." The
That's
majority
on
of them are
purpose
not getting court, but that's on purpose. But the majority
because
of them are
money.
not getting to court because what's happening is they are abusing them and treating them like hell. There's very little medical. It's been reported that DHS is not paying their medical bills. They're not paying the companies that they contract to do medical. And so this is why a lot of people are dying in ICE custody. Plus, they've been beating them. We know that one guy was apparently choked to death. And what they're
Homicide, yeah.
what they're doing though is so they let's say they arrest your neighbors, mom and dad, leave the kids behind. You have to deal with all that. Community has to deal with that. Kids are traumatized. The parents are traumatized. They'll send the parents to separate facilities. They won't have any contact with each other and they won't be able to call out but once in a blue moon, and when they do it's like $5 a minute. It's so much money, it's not even funny. They can't afford it. They have no access to attorneys because in immigration you don't have the legal right to an attorney, so the government will not provide an attorney for you. And even if you have an attorney, they will move you to facilities where your attorney, let's say your attorney's in San Diego, well, they're not going to keep you in San Diego. They'll move you all the way to Texas or to Louisiana. But their goal is to not give you due process. And they
Right.
come to them every week and say, "Do you want to go back to Mexico?" Whether you're from Mexico or not. And they say, "If you don't sign this," I just read a whole big report from the ACLU on this, out of a facility out of El Paso. And what they're saying is if you don't go back to Mexico, and they'll even shackle them and put them on buses and take them. They're taking them to Santa Teresa, I believe, over there, and trying to force them across and make them jump across the border. So they're not even doing it in legal ways. And essentially, it's like you either stay here until maybe we get you an appointment, and maybe we won't, and you're suffering that whole fucking time. And so people just end up giving up and taking the self-deportation to Mexico, whether they're from Guatemala or Honduras or Haiti or Afghanistan or wherever, and they're self-deporting to Mexico because the conditions in these facilities are so bad. That is a human rights crime the way we're treating them. These are actually
They're crimes
wartime.
against humanity.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're crimes against humanity the way we're treating them. And then also I wanted to address somebody pointed out that Preddy had um, prior attack or prior conflicts with ICE. One time he kicked their light out, and they're trying to say, "See, he was violent and this and that." That has no bearing on whether or not these agents had the right to disarm this man and take his gun. I do not know
That's
if
a
he
misdemeanor crime.
Yeah, but I don't know if he was the question was he targeted by them? He could have
Yes.
been. He
Yeah.
could have been, we don't know, but he could have been because I just saw this morning that Ian Austin, I believe is his name, the military vet who did a video. He got millions of reviews and he was saying, we all said we were going to serve the Constitution and our oath. What happened to that? And they targeted him and they arrested him this morning. We don't know what the charges were, but
Really?
attorney was it might have been
Oh.
yesterday that he was arrested, but I saw it this morning, probably was. And now he's in custody. We don't know where he is or what they're charging him with or anything.
What is
Um,
his name? Ian?
Ian Austin, like as in Austin, Texas. He's a
Wow.
military vet. I want to say he was an Air Force or Army vet. I'm not sure. And so now he's in custody. And it's because his videos have been drawing so much attention to ICE. I kind of think when I look at Preddy and I look at his actions, and as you see, he's obviously getting more and more frustrated with he's not been able to do anything. And I note that in the incident where he's tackled by ICE after he kicks their taillight out, you can see his gun holster in
Yes,
the small of his back.
I saw that
And
video. Mhm.
none of those agents felt the need to shoot him that day. None of those agents felt the need to take his life in that day. That's what I see. And 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 in fact, the day that he was shot, he was more restrained than on the day when he kicked the taillight
That's a
out. He
really good
was
point. He was totally restrained.
yeah, and so what I see is I quite honestly, when people say, "Well, why was he carrying a gun?" I think he was the type of man who was like, "I'm gonna stand up if the time occurs where I need to help somebody. And if they kill me, I want everybody to know that I'm a lawfully permitted white man carrying a gun, and they killed me." And I think that man gave his life knowing I think that man went out every day knowing if something horrible happens in front of me, like they're pepper spraying a woman and trying to knock her down, I'm gonna put my body in front of them because I'm a white man, I'm a permitted carrying kinda man, Second Amendment man, and I want other people to see me. And I think Alex Preddy, put his white body in there,
I
and
do
he did
too.
what
Oh,
we yeah,
absolutely. There's no
yeah,
question. No question. I wrote a piece that was like, yeah, so they're killing white men. What now, Chad? Because I grew up with all the Chads in a small, I mean, I came from the 2A people. That's a two stoplight town in the middle of Ohio, a rural community. And, everybody loves their 2A. I'm not, this isn't even about I'm not a huge fan of guns. I don't love them. They kinda scare me for good reason. But I just kind of wish personally that there was more gun control. I don't see the need for semi-automatic weapons, that people need to own those, but that's not what this discussion is about. That being said, he that man, Alex Preddy, could would be nodded at by any other MAGA guy. He's wearing a Carhartt. He's got a beard and a baseball cap. He's an avid outdoorsman, and he believes in the Second Amendment. He looks like every dude that I grew up with in rural Ohio, um, who you can't tell them apart. So how are you going to tell apart like Alex Preddy? Because plenty of people believe it. See, that's the difference in it's not a one side or the other side, guys. That's the other part, right? You can still believe in 2A, right? And human rights. Like,
yeah,
and I can't stand the way we've assigned 2A. Well, that's just the MAGA crowd, right? It's not. It's
no,
absolutely not. Alex
yeah,
Preddy was an avid I mean, he was clearly, and he was a healer as a nurse. My mother was a nurse. Nurses are healers. Everybody, the things that they had to say about Alex Preddy were nothing but kind words. He worked at the VA. He cared about veterans. What a guy. I mean, and he put himself, I agree with you wholeheartedly that he put himself, and guess what? Also, the way that so many men were actually raised to do, to protect someone that they viewed as being more vulnerable than them,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Protect the
mhm,
vulnerable. It sounds like he was raised well, is what it sounds like and looks like to me, right?
yeah,
And so he was a good man, he had good intentions, and that is the part that we all think. So many people say, "Well, hey, we need white bodies, right, to stand between the vulnerable. Well, look
Mhm,
what they did. So that
mhm.
what's the message? That white bodies don't matter in the end either because they shot him.
Yeah,
They executed him
and
on the street.
it's gonna take more dead white bodies to get people to pay attention.
Ugh.
That's just that's the truth of it. We have to put our bodies out there or else nobody will care. I did see someone just now saying, "Oh, they're trying to be Germans." And I understand the need and to want to
Someone
compare
just said
us.
Liam is released.
Oh, good. Oh,
Oh,
yeah, he did
that's
get an order of release, but whether or not they were gonna release him, so I'm glad that they've released him if they have released
oh,
him,
thank
that's good.
goodness. I'm so happy to hear that.
Um, um, I wanna caution people, I know it's very easy to say to compare all this to Nazis and this and that, and there are a lot of comparisons to make, obviously. I see it myself, I saw it myself when I was an agent, it's something that was always on my mind, and that's why I could only serve 6 years is because I could see the parallels and the similarities. But I want to remind people that it was the United States of America that
Yes.
slaughtered the natives and did a genocide on the natives.
Yes.
Um, it was the United States of America that designed the United States Border Patrol in 1924 that Adolf Hitler took a lot of lessons from. It
Mhm.
was the United States Border Patrol in 1924 that was delousing immigrants coming from Mexico with, the gas that was later used to kill Jewish people in the concentration camps. Adolf Hitler said there was no better teacher than, the United States slavery and the
Mhm.
Jim Crow
Jim Crow
laws that
laws.
came after that.
Yes. Everybody
So
needs to remember that. We
let's
think,
remember that the
yeah.
Nazis learned a lot from us. Let's re
Eugenics came from us, guys. Like,
Yeah,
that was from the United States.
yeah,
And that doesn't mean we can't, still love your own country, but in order we have to be honest about it if we're going to do anything meaningful and truly move forward together, right?
and
It's
right.
acknowledging the harm that we caused.
Mhm.
We have to acknowledge the harm that we caused, and so it doesn't get repeated.
And this is why it is getting repeated is I keep seeing people say, "Well, Gaza was the test case for what they're gonna do in America," and it's like, I
No.
yeah, Israel was not even a state before the Holocaust happened.
No,
So, I
we've done
mean,
some really
you have to
shitty
understand
things.
it's not to say that we are not in partnership right now and that Border Patrol and ICE and our police departments aren't training with IDF and learning stuff from IDF, but at the same time, we trained IDF. It was us
Yeah,
who helped create that. Is there now a blending together of IDF and Border Patrol, and are IDF involved in what's going on in the United States? Probably, but we don't have any proof yet, but we think so. So yeah, to try and put this on somebody else and say we wouldn't have done this, say, for Israel and IDF, that's shirking our responsibility and our accountability for
that's
who
right.
we have always been as a nation. And one
That's
of the
right.
things about my book that I don't feel that I got through very well was that I kinda, like everything in my life and trying to deal with all the trauma that I had endured, I could not get out of my mental health spiral and my self-hatred and anger because I would not accept accountability for what I had done and
Mhm.
dealing out the trauma. And so it is only through accepting accountability through what we have
Right.
done and sitting in the trauma that we have caused others that we can then progress and not repeat these same things and teach our
That's right.
children not to repeat these same things.
That's
So
right.
when we ignore things, and teach our children that, everybody's done slavery, it's not that big of a deal. No, no, no. Then you're gonna repeat those things if you
Yes.
teach those things.
You
So
know,
we have to
yeah.
admit who we are and what we have done in order to progress.
And
So
I just wrote this piece this week, The Ghosts of Nuremberg, where addressing so the Kelly wrote this book called 22 Cells in Nuremberg. And if you read this book, so here's the part that I think that another area where we failed is that We all, institutions, everybody was required, Anne Frank was required reading The Diary of Anne Frank. It should be. Not saying that it shouldn't. But you know what we didn't follow up with? We didn't follow up with what is the antidote? How do you stop it? We didn't have that. They didn't talk about how you stop. We mourned Anne Frank. We talked about the concentration camps. We talked about the trauma and the tragedy and all of the things that happened, but we also didn't talk about how to interrupt it. And how do we, even though we said never again, they didn't teach students how to invest in making sure that it doesn't happen again. They didn't
Yeah.
talk about our civic duty, about the importance of voting, about the importance of how using racism to other people is how this kind of starts, right? And he pointed this out in his book um, in part 8, which was how does this impact America? Because when he came back from Nuremberg, everybody wanted in America wanted it's a nice red bow. Okay, took care of that, got rid of all the bad guys. It's not going to happen here, right? And he was like, no, 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 hold on. If you read his book, is like, no, it could happen here. And I'm actually really concerned that it could happen here because we have the makings of that here. He talked
Yeah.
about the racism. He talked about how this starts and being able to other people and addressing those issues. He talked about Japanese internment camps, right? And what we did during World War II, even though we were like, yay, we beat the Nazis. Yes, we did. We also took our own citizens that were here, legally living here, had homes, businesses, and we put them in concentration camps and did
Mhm.
not treat them very well, right?
Mhm.
So he addressed those issues. And then his book, because America didn't want to hear about that, America wanted to hear that that could never happen here, they shelved it. It wasn't a very popular book. And, as I'm reading part 8, I'm like, oh my God, right here, everybody should have been assigned part 8. It was 7
Mhm.
pages. It really could have helped us if
Yeah.
if that was one of the things that we were taught all this time, I guess, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, it does make sense. I mean, it's the reason why, I mean, I don't wanna say, like, my book is some book that should be read by everybody, but it's one of the reasons why mine is suppressed so much is everything I talk about in there. Books usually don't last, like, more than a couple of years unless they're big books,
Well, I would
like.
encourage everybody to read Jen's book. And then also, I mean, really, honestly, she's just like a straight shooter. And right now, we cannot get lost in euphemism and abstractions and hedging and softening of language like I accidentally did. So, I'm always on that bent about paying attention to language. And I'm really like, that just shows you guys I write about not softening language all the time, and I just did it. So what that means is that it works even like it psychologically impacts you the more that people, detention centers. No, they're not detention centers. They're
Mm-mm.
concentration camps. We are warehousing human beings and it's privatized. And the reason that they aren't really motivated to necessarily, I mean, I know you're saying they're throwing them over the border, but I also think this is a way for them to make their buddies rich
Oh, yeah.
because they're getting paid. Just so everybody knows, the rate is like 100. I've heard people say 130. I saw it was like $190 a day. So, and I wrote about this with kids, and sometimes children are allegedly more money. But if we just take that $190 a day, and they are illegally holding children in these places for up to Politico did a big report on this, up to 168 days, guys.
Mhm.
They have
Mhm.
they have record of kids like clawing into, tallying into the cinder block so they can count how many days. Imagine that. They're counting their childhood being
I also, we need to point out too, Lisa, that if we don't want children in these facilities, then we have to not put their parents in these facilities. There
Yes.
just cannot be in the United States of America. The 14th Amendment covers all persons. It says persons, not citizens. They
Right.
are afforded due process in
Yes.
immigration hearings, and it is ridiculous to hold them. The whole reason why they've developed these detention centers is they can make money because it doesn't say you cannot hold somebody
Right.
without a criminal conviction for while they await their immigration hearing. Well, but the 1980 Refugee Act says that people who are seeking asylum or refugee status are not to be held in custody simply because they came here to seek that. That's what it says, and we just and yet once again, Democrats don't ever point to the 1980 Refugee Act. They never talk about this stuff to Americans, so most Americans don't know that no, this actually violates the law. It actually violates the law what they're
So
doing.
many of the things
Nobody
that
ever
they're
makes
doing
that
are
argument.
violating the laws. Yeah. So many of the things that they're doing are violating the law. So, I mean, to Jen's point, I think we also have to quit, quit just, you know, those Democrats that are out there. Look, that are out there who are not made for this moment. They need to get out. They need to get out, and we need to vote them out, and we need to push them right now because, um, yes, it might appear as though it's the lesser of two evils, but Jen just told you, having worked there, she was brought in as a border patrol agent under Clinton,
Yeah.
who took a policy from the Heritage Foundation, correct?
Yep.
So
Yep.
he was a Democrat.
Yep.
So these are the things that we need to understand, that we don't just give our blind support to people that are not modeling, or their values don't align with ours. They have to be made for this moment. They have to be willing to fight for us, and we have to push people. Keep calling. Call. I don't care. I'm calling, and mine are all Republicans, right? But then in your
Right.
communities, I'm going to a I'm calling the mayors. I'm going to my city council meetings, right? I'm going to a county commissioners meeting, calling the DA to say, "Hey, how are you going to protect us in our community? What are you going to do?" And there's all kinds of language out there. If you're not sure and you need a script, I have stuff in pieces. There's lots of people out there. People can DM me and go, "I need some language." I'll send you links. Like there's all kinds of scripts. There's five calls. Okay. Don't forget about five calls, because five calls is an app that you can use that kind of talks about all of the issues. So even if you might not be calling that particular senator because you already called them, you can use that same language when you go talk to the mayor or city council, especially regarding ICE and CBP coming to your community. How are you going to keep us safe? What are you going to do? Are you going to make sure that if they are unlawful against our citizens and our community, that you're going to arrest them? That the DA is going to press charges against them, right? These are all these things that we can do. Calling, I just got language this week also from a friend that is very, very, like, involved with working with immigrants, and he gave me language for a resolution for for the school to for the school district to pass, for the board at the school to pass. There's language for a resolution about not allowing ICE on the premises. These are things that we can actually do that can make an impact, right? Because I mean, I don't know what the situation was in Minnesota, because I don't know. Did they have a resolution? Did they break the law? They probably did. I mean, they shot Alex Preddy, they probably broke the law. For all I know, they weren't allowed on the school grounds in Minnesota either. I don't know the answer to that. Do you, by chance, if they were allowed?
I don't know what Minnesota's law is, and I know I could probably not that I'm not seeing this in the chat, but just hearing people talk, they'll be like, "Well, so what? They bar them from wearing masks. They're going to do whatever they want." And I know that that's the case. You need to demand these changes from your local and state lawmakers, and then you have them. We're trying to create the situation of where we have evidence against them for breaking the law. You're
Mhm.
trying to create the situation where you're demanding that your leaders stand up against this publicly and stuff. The more that they do this, the more that they stand up publicly, then the more that they'll back down. Let's go back to the Bovino incident. Um, Nothing is really gonna change with Homan coming in, so this is how the Border Patrol and immigration always acts. When they start to get in trouble, we saw this in Chicago. They started to get in trouble when they shot, and luckily did not kill Mary Mar Martinez, and then we saw how I say they do the cover-ups and they lie about everything, and the judges were calling Bovino in and calling him to account, and the judge sat there in court and said, "You are lying. You are lying under oath." That is when he got his little ass up and got the hell out of Chicago. Why? Because Chicago was holding him accountable, because the leaders in
Yep.
Chicago were pushing back publicly because they looked bad. Why is he suddenly out
Yes.
of Minneapolis? Because people took to the streets and they started pushing back, and the leadership started pushing back. And so, what is their response? Oh, okay, we're going to disappear for a while, and then their hope is that you'll just forget about it and then they won't
No.
be held accountable, because that's what happens down here on the southern border. They get busted in something, they try and put out information, and even a lot of times false information about the victims, saying, "Oh, look, here they are being violent. In the past, they might have had an arrest for marijuana. See, that shows they're a horrible person," and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. None of that is true. These are all true, tried, and practiced things, pattern and practice that they've used down here forever. They know that if they just back off just a little bit and pretend that they're doing some sort of accountability, that the lawmakers will not do a damn thing about it. It's the same thing that happened with the children in custody during the first Trump administration.
Yes.
The
Yes.
first Trump, Joaquin Castro is doing an excellent job, yes, and AOC is
Joaquin
doing,
Castro is the person that, I think he was the one that got to see that was the name I couldn't remember. Joaquin
yeah,
Castro, I think
Joaquin.
yeah, I think he is the person that got to go in to see, Liam
Yeah,
Ramos.
and he is doing an excellent job, and some other ones are doing excellent jobs, but they're mostly progressives that are doing it, but very few and far between. So this is the pattern. As soon as Border Patrol and ICE feel that they might be held accountable, you'll see them kind of back up a little bit, but not really admit anything. They'll shuffle people around. It's called the Border Patrol shuffle. And then you'll be like, "Oh, okay," and everybody just walks away and nothing ever happens. This happened with the last chief, Jason Owens, who was being investigated by CBP's Office of Professional Responsibility, which was at the time headed by Daniel Altman, who's former Border Patrol agent who always made sure that these agents didn't get in trouble and always warned the chiefs when they were being investigated for sexual assault by female agents so that they could retire. And that's a whole freaking another podcast. But essentially, they're just doing the same plan where they kinda just throw somebody under the bus. You see, they're saying they're mad at Bovino, that they might get rid of Rodney Scott, they'll bring in home, and this is all just a shuffling. It's just a shuffling of chairs. They're not gonna hold anybody accountable. This is just the game that they always, always play, and then they will come back harder, and they will move to another town that they think is not ready for them. The reason why they went into Charlotte and left so soon, Charlotte is a huge, major base for organization and human rights. They have a massive system there and a massive network there, and they kept their migrants off the street. They had nobody to arrest pretty much, and so that's why they had to move out of there, is because they were ready for them. They just gave them nothing. And different cities are going to respond in different ways depending on what happens. But you should expect this to continue. You should expect this to increase. They are moving the agents out of the hotels and onto military bases so that then you cannot protest the hotels and things like that. So we have to keep moving as they keep moving and changing. Um,
Yeah, this is
But nothing
fluid.
is gonna change. This is just giving the press something to write about, to act like, "Oh, now they're gonna back up." No, this is not gonna be changing. A lot of these, like, in San Diego and down here in Tucson and stuff, they call them ice raids, but they're not really what I would call a raid. It's, maybe a handful of agents stopping cars left and right. They're getting a lot more people in the interior cities, but it doesn't look like the massive raids and stuff that we saw in LA and Chicago and stuff. So it's gonna look different in other areas. But, yeah, we gotta push back in every way, at every level. We need our elite lawyers pushing back at the Supreme Court and all those levels. We need immigration lawyers down here filing habeas petitions left and right. We need, our
We need
attorneys.
everyday citizens going to their I mean, look, it's
Yeah,
not like I
everything.
wanted to go I don't, um, frequent local politics. That wasn't my jam. I was in social service. There's a reason, because politicians have always been really slimy to me. But you know what? I'm in it. I'm in it to win it. I'm not giving up. And you can't either. Like it's just push back local. And we need all those people. But if you're not any of those things, right? I'm not any of those things. I'm not an attorney, right? But I can make a huge difference in my own community. I can make a huge difference every phone call. One phone call, you're right, it doesn't make a difference. But if there's all of us calling, all of us sending emails and letters, all of it, a bunch of us showing up at our county commissioners, um, calling the governor and asking what the heck you're doing. We don't want ICE coming here. We don't want in your communities. That's what I'm going to say to the county commissioners. I want you to promise that you are not going to engage in any contracts with the DHS and ICE. I do
Mhm,
not want any of our jails that are local to be holding any immigrants.
mhm.
I do not want them to be used as detention. And we also have to be pushing back now that we know. Go read Steve Schmidt's article about these 23 sites that they're trying to build. He made a great point about, if you're a contractor, right? That's the other part. I mean, and this all works. Like if we have choices that we make every day with our wallets, right? If you wanna order something, for God's sakes, don't do it through Amazon, right? Amazon's easy, I get it. I used to be an Amazon person, I'm no longer. You know what? I've also saved myself some money because
Yeah,
I'll just go to the store. I'm not
yeah.
going to Amazon, and then I'll be like, "Well, I just never go to get that." So don't use Amazon. There's another option, Whole Foods. They're all over the country, right? We shouldn't be going there.
Yep.
Let's use other options. Think about it. There are apps that you can go on to find out about even products that you are purchasing, right? And whether or
It
not
all
they're
matters. It all matters.
every ounce matters. And if we're all doing all of those things, yeah, it's a pain in
Or
the
some
neck.
of those things.
Yes.
You can't do all of them.
No, you
Obviously,
can't
we
do
all
all of
can't do all of them.
No,
And
no, but
and
if
we
you're making conscious choices about where you spend financially, right?
Mhm.
If you're doing that, and if you're making some phone calls, sending some letters, you can't do it all and, every single day constantly, but democracy requires our attention every single day.
It requires our participation.
Yes,
And I think that's what we've taken for granted. I know I took it for granted
we all did.
for a long time. And, I would like so we go now, we're gonna be an hour and a half, so
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna
gotta
cut it
go.
off in 5 minutes, but I wanna say one of the things that people ask me in Tucson, what can they do? The United States Border Patrol, ICE, and CBP are in your schools from preschool all the way into college. One of the things that you can do as a parent or as a guardian is make it known to your school that you are not going to allow your children to attend on that day, to attend if they're going to continue letting these people into your schools. This is how we have trained so many in the younger generations to think it's okay to hold people who have not committed any crimes in detention, in custody for indefinite periods of time. with no end without being able to see a judge. And so how can you combat that if you cannot get your schools to stop allowing them in? Well, then you bring in your own education that talks about the humanity of immigrants and how we can have a humane immigration system and how it is not right to hold people in detention who have not been adjudicated and had due process. And if they tell you you can't do that, I'm going to tell you how the Border Patrol gets around it when they tell them that they can't allow them in the schools. They do it through school clubs because the clubs are not necessarily a part of that. So you need to start your own clubs. You need to stop being afraid to be pro-immigrant, and you need to talk about that, and we need to educate. This is not a one-off. Everyone's like, "How can we stop this?" I can't tell you how to stop this in one sentence. I can't tell you how to stop this with one answer. This is generational work. These people have created this system. It's embedded in hundreds of years ago, but essentially they created the modern system starting about 30 years ago, is how long they've been working on this. So obviously it takes some time. We need to understand that this is generational work. It does not end with us. We are building, and we hope that people behind us pick up what we're putting out and run with it.
And we have a lot of people, well, I'm just gonna speak from the Gen X generation, the forgotten ones, the ones that drank out of garden hoses and,
That's me.
me too. The ones who drank out of garden hoses, and they had to have the commercial to tell our parents to remind them that they even had children. Remember that? "It's 10 o'clock.
This is your
Do you
brain
know where
on
your
drugs. Oof.
do you it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are?" So, this is
No.
our I mean, to me, a lot of us, yeah, okay, we were ignored, whatever, but we've had it really pretty good.
Yeah.
We've had it really pretty good. It's our time. This is our moment in history where we are being called upon to exercise courage, to tap into that bravery, and to stand up for doing the right thing that's right in front of us. And it's not going to happen overnight, but
Nope.
we can't give up. We can't give up, and we have to continue to push back because I'm telling you, they did not plan on Minnesota.
Mm-mm. So that's the other thing I'd like to leave people with is the one thing that these agents are not used to is in immigration is pushback, and they are not used to the cameras. They are not used to cameras that they cannot control. Let me put it that way. So keep
And if you
filming
wanna
them.
know what that looks like, I'm just gonna give a plug for this. Not because I mean, I get nothing from it, like, Jen was in this documentary from HBO called Critical Incident: Death at the Border, I believe it was called.
Yeah,
And, it's on HBO, I guess it also streams on Amazon. When I found out that this was going to be released, I, I got HBO just so I could see it, and I'm telling you it's worth it, but I guess it also streams, is it on Am
it's on Amazon Prime as well.
I just
So
told you not to use Amazon, but
yeah, but I
maybe
mean,
I don't know.
If you have Amazon Prime, then watch it and then cancel your membership.
Right.
And then and then also and the sad thing about it is once it disappears, like, they won't give us a copy of it or
But from
anything,
just
so
as a person, as a citizen who has was not part of Border Patrol, right? And I wasn't part of the law enforcement world that Jen came from. So I went and I watched it and was blown away, right? On the same day that it debuted, it was like the 28th or something of January, I think, 27th. At the end of, I'm sorry, December
29th
28th.
of December is when it comes out.
29th of December is when it aired, okay? So I watched it, I was blown away. And you'll see if you watch it what she means by, they're not used to cameras because of some of the things that took place in that in that in that documentary because they didn't realize cameras were upon them for somebody that they killed, right? And then I watched this in less than a week or a week later play out exactly with Renee Nicole Good.
Yep,
I
yep,
watched
and now
and
and then you see it with Pretty where they're what
yep,
did they attack Pretty for? Filming them. That's
yes.
exactly what it was for. That's why they killed him, is because he filmed them. He had the nerve to film their brutality.
And when
That's what
people
they're
say
angry about.
he was obstructing, he was no, they're not allowed to stand in the street or he wasn't doing. They
He was
dragged
directing
him.
traffic in the street. He was waving cars through in the street.
And then he was they dragged him in back onto the street.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Mhm.
just
Did
remember
you
that.
see the CNN? CNN did a really good analysis of it, and they watched the agents who end up killing him beforehand, and how the agents created the violence that then that then they used to justify why they killed Preddy. And at the same time, the second gunman, you see Preddy is already on the ground, and more than a second goes by, and then all of a sudden Preddy is obviously incapacitated, whether or not dead, we don't know, incapacitated on the ground, face up. And then the guy goes, boom, 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 5 more times to make sure that motherfucker was dead. That's how he saw it in his mind.
Ugh.
All right, everybody. Um,
I know it's
remember,
heavy
this is
stuff, but it's
generational.
important stuff.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff. It's important stuff. Take in what you can. You don't have to be experts about this, but just know any way that you can protest is good. Even if you're on the side, just supplying water to people who are protesting is good. Pushing your representatives, including, don't think just because your representative is a Democrat that you don't have to push on that.
Oh, thank you,
Um,
thank you. So many people say to me, they'll say back to me, "I'm so lucky, I have a great rep," and I'm like, "Oh, for the
mm-mm,
love of God." I mean, you
mm-mm,
can't just I mean, you might have a great rep, but a lot of people have said, "Well, I'm lucky because my rep's a Democrat." That doesn't
yeah.
mean anything.
Yeah, and I've had people say, "Oh, if they had just approved the Biden border bill, all of this would have been fixed."
No.
No. This would have been continuing. Stop that shit right now,
I would
okay?
also encourage you, just a quick plug before we get off, to also press mainstream media. Look, I don't have a lot of hope, but I just have to say that's how we ended up with Don Lemon and Georgia Fort and the other two journalists. I'm sorry, I forgot their names, being arrested for simply doing their jobs and covering what is going on.
And
Mainstream
it's
media
but
needs
it's
to
also
get off
significant.
the fence. They just called it fascism
Yeah. Yeah.
for in the last month. Wow! You know what? Announcing it after it's already here is more like a history lesson. It is not actually being the fourth estate and helping speak truth to power. So please, 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 please continue to push back on those and also support independent journalists. And I would mention that I know that Defiance started a fund to help fund independent journalists that end up getting in situations to help fund them for court costs and helping defend them because some people like Don Lemon, who's a prominent black journalist, might have more than the average independent journalist, and also take those know your right. If you're going to protest and you're going to participate in helping with, document ICE activities, do take the classes. You need to understand your rights and you need to understand your risks.
Mhm.
And you need to understand de escalation. Don't just go out there blind and don't just don't just go out there with the intention of trying to start something because, uh, look, these people that were killed were trained in Minnesota. They
Yeah.
were trained.
Trained observers, trained to recognize when Border Patrol and ICE are getting too violent and stuff. So the thing is Border Patrol and ICE are going to escalate, and they are going to kill more of us. They are going to arrest more of us. And so you have to decide how much you're willing to risk. But we need everybody out there.
Well, I'm in it for my kids and the future of all kids. So, you know what? It's my time to stand up, and I'm going to do every single thing that I can. And I hope all of you will join me. And we all have different skills to bring to the table, and it's going to require
Exactly.
all of us.
Exactly. And we need I want to remind everybody that Lisa Gonzalez writes the wonderful
Well, thank you.
Eleanor Squad. and please donate to her and help her
No.
continue on with her research and so forth. I write Borderland Talk, and you can donate here or you can go to Ghost. I'm thinking about doing a website soon just because I worry about Substack and so forth. Yes, Against the Wall. You can buy Against the Wall
Please
anywhere
buy it Against the Wall
online.
and make sure you go watch Critical Incident if you can, because it's going to explain a lot of things to you. This happened a while. When did that happen, that case, Jen?
2010.
Okay, so this case happened in 2010, and then I watched what happened with Renee Nicole Good play out less than a week later, and then a few weeks later, same thing play out with Alex Preddy.
Yeah, and so when our politicians sit there and go, "Well, this isn't the way these agencies used to act," they're lying to you. They've always been this way. It's just been kept down here on the southern border and mostly aimed at black and brown bodies coming across the border. I love you too, MJ. Um, so this is where we get back to, I'm not going to say it correctly. I'll butcher it. A lack of justice for anybody is a lack of justice for us all. So
Mhm.
that's where all of this is headed to, and so call them out when they say, "Oh, we need national security," and they don't need any more money. They are bloated with money right now. They have so much money, they are taking their cars and ramming them into people that they've never even asked a single question of.
More money
And
equals more harm. That's the way I literally am looking. I'm looking every dollar given toward ICE is a dollar towards harm. That is the way
yeah,
that we have to look at it. So we
yeah.
have to fight to make sure that they're not just not giving them more money, but clawing it back and seeing what they can do. Start with abolishing ICE, right?
Yep.
We all know that Republicans might not go for that, but you got to start there.
And people who are like, "What are we gonna do without ICE?" I'll say this, and then we're gonna cut it off, I swear to God. I'll say this, people who are like, "What are we gonna do without ICE?" We didn't have ICE before 2003. The fact of the matter is that when immigrants commit crimes that are then deportable, violent crimes that are then deportable, I'm not talking about traffic tickets or anything like that. Talking about people who are violent that are deportable by US law. Your local and state and federal prisons have the ability to see who these people are and then contact the immigration services that then can handle that. That's how it should work. ICE doesn't need to be out on the streets going door to door and all of this other stuff. They need to be going to the jails and the prisons and addressing it that way. That's the way to do it. So we're not going to have any problems. They don't have to exist. They didn't exist beforehand, and we will be just fine. So I'll leave you with that.
Okay, thanks, Jen. I appreciate this conversation. Thanks. Oh, look, it said there's a new beauty filter on my phone. What's it trying? What's it trying to tell me? Hey, man, I should have pressed it before.
You damn motherfuckers. All right.
All right, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody. Thank you,
everybody.
Lisa. Bye bye.
Thank you, Jen.